The research station floated silently above the dead planet. Commander Hayun stood in the control room, watching the dark world below through the observation window. 3 more colonies had gone silent this week. 3 more worlds where people just stopped answering. The last messages were always the same. Confused reports about stars dimming, about darkness spreading where darkness shouldn't be. Hayun was tired. She had been searching for weeks, looking through old records and forgotten places. Humanity needed something. Anything. The normal weapons didn't work against whatever was killing the colonies. The aliens in the Galactic Collective didn't know what to do either. They just argued and pointed fingers while people died. "Commander, Dr. Taman found something," a young officer said behind her. Hayun turned quickly. Taman was a scientist who spent all his time reading old files about Earth's past. Most people thought he was wasting time. Hayun had started to agree with them. "Show me," she said. In the archive room, Taman pointed at his screen with shaking hands. His eyes were wide with excitement. This file was buried deep. Really deep. It's about something called Project Aegis, a military program from almost 300 years ago. Hayun read the screen. The words made no sense at first. Super soldiers, dark energy weapons, warriors who could fight alone against entire fleets. It sounded like fantasy. "This can't be real," she said. "There are coordinates, a facility on the planet below. It still has power."
Taman looked at her with desperate hope.
"We have to check." Hayun made the decision fast. They didn't have time to ask permission from people far away. She took a team down to the planet in a small ship. The facility sat in a valley, surrounded by dead trees and dust. But Taman was right. Light still glowed inside the building. The doors opened when Taman typed in old codes from the file. Inside, everything looked perfect. No dust, no decay, like someone had just left yesterday instead of centuries ago. They walked through empty halls. Hayun felt strange, like she was walking through a grave. Finally, they reached a large room at the center. In the middle stood a glass pod. Frost covered the outside, but through it Hayun could see a man. He looked young, maybe 30. His body was covered in strange metal patterns that seemed to grow from his skin. The readings on the pod showed he was alive. Somehow, after almost 300 years, he was still alive. "His name is Daesung," Taman whispered, reading from a display panel. "The last guardian. The file says he was the strongest one." "Wake him up," Hayun ordered. "Commander, we should run more tests. We don't know. Wake him up. Now." Taman's hands shook as he pressed buttons on the control panel. The pod hissed. Steam poured out. The frost melted away. The man's eyes opened. They glowed with a strange blue light. Then he moved faster than Hayun could see. The glass shattered. Daesung grabbed Taman by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "Where am I?" His voice was rough, like he hadn't spoken in years. "Where is my team?" Hayun pulled her weapon, but she knew it wouldn't help. Daesung could kill them all in seconds. "Your team is gone," she said carefully. "It's been 280 years." Daesung stared at her. Slowly, he lowered Taman to the ground. The blue light in his eyes faded a little. "That's impossible," he said. "I'm Commander Hayun of the United Terran Fleet. The year is 2547. Your mission failed. They put you in that pod." Daesung looked around the room like he was seeing it for the first time. His face showed nothing, but his hands were shaking. "Why did you wake me?" he asked quietly. "Because we're dying. Something is attacking our colonies. It's spreading darkness across the stars. Normal weapons don't work. We need." An alarm screamed through the facility. Hayun's communication device crackled to life. "Commander, the station is detecting something at the edge of the system. It's a void. A sphere of complete darkness. It's growing." Daesung's whole body went rigid. The metal patterns on his skin began to glow. "No," he whispered. "It found me. He ran." Hayun and her team chased him through the facility and back to their ship. Daesung didn't wait for them. He jumped into the pilot seat and started the engines before anyone could stop him. "What are you doing?" Hayun shouted. "Taking your ship. Stay here if you want to live. You don't even know how to fly modern ships." Daesung looked at her. For a moment, his face showed something. Maybe fear, maybe guilt. "I know what that thing is. I know what it does to people. And I know I'm the only one who can hurt it." He paused. "Get off my ship or come with me. Choose now." Hayun sat down in the co-pilot seat. Taman and 2 Marines scrambled into the back. The ship launched through the viewport. They saw it. a perfect sphere of absolute black eating the stars. It was already 10 times bigger than when they first detected it. Inside that darkness, Ha-Yun knew an entire colony was dying. Dae-sung flew straight toward it. "Are you insane?" one of the Marines yelled. Dae-sung didn't answer. The metal patterns on his skin were glowing brighter now, spreading across his whole body. His eyes blazed with blue light. The air around him felt heavy, wrong, like reality was bending. When they reached the edge of the darkness, Dae-sung stood up. His body was covered in armor now, living armor that had grown from his skin. It was beautiful and terrible. "Keep the ship here. If I don't come back in 1 hour, leave." He walked to the airlock. "You can't survive in space," Taemin shouted. Dae-sung smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "I'm not sure I'm still human enough to die that way." He opened the airlock and jumped into the void. For 30 minutes they watched. At first they saw nothing. Then flashes of blue light appeared in the darkness. Explosions of energy. The darkness itself seemed to scream, though there was no sound in space. Slowly, impossibly, the sphere stopped growing. It began to shrink. Something inside it was fighting back. When Dae-sung finally appeared at the airlock, his armor was shattered. Blood floated around him in the zero gravity, but he was alive. Barely. They pulled him inside. Taemin tried to treat his wounds, but they were already healing. The metal patterns in his skin were pulling his body back together. "What was that thing?" Ha-Yun asked. Dae-sung coughed blood. "Just a piece of it." "A small piece. A piece of what?" He looked at her with tired eyes. "The thing I failed to stop 300 years ago. The reason they put me in that pod instead of letting me finish the mission." He closed his eyes. "It's called the Void Sovereign. And what you just saw was nothing. The real thing is still coming." Ha-Yun felt cold. "How big is the real thing?" "Big enough to eat your son," Dae-sung whispered. "Big enough to turn this entire sector into nothing. And it remembers me. That's why it came here. It knows I'm awake." The ship flew back to the station in silence. Behind them, the darkness had stopped spreading. But everyone knew it was temporary. The Guardian had returned. But even he wasn't sure he could win. Earth looked different. Dae-sung stood in the medical bay of the lunar station, staring out at the blue planet through the window. 300 years had changed everything. The cities were bigger. The orbital stations covered the sky like a metal ring. Ships moved everywhere, peaceful and slow. It made him sick. In his time, Earth was a fortress. Every human knew how to fight. Every ship carried weapons. They had to. The galaxy was dangerous, and nobody was going to protect them except themselves. Now they looked soft, weak. They smiled at aliens and asked for permission before defending themselves. The door opened. Dr. Tae-min walked in with his tablet, looking nervous as usual. "Your body is fascinating," Taemin said. "The Aegis system has grown. It's more advanced than any of the original designs. It's almost like it's alive." Dae-sung didn't look at him. "It is alive. It's been thinking for 300 years while I slept. That's impossible. Artificial intelligence can't. It's not artificial." Dae-sung touched his chest where the metal patterns glowed under his skin. "It's part of me now. It thinks my thoughts. It feels what I feel. We're the same thing." Taemin wrote notes quickly. "This changes everything. If we could replicate this technology—" "No," Dae-sung said firmly. "You won't make more of me. But if the threat is as big as you say," I said no. The room fell silent. Taemin looked like he wanted to argue but decided against it. A woman entered the room. She was older, maybe 50, with sharp eyes and expensive clothes. "Ambassador Ji-won," she said, extending her hand. "I handle Earth's relations with the Galactic Collective." Dae-sung ignored her hand. "I don't shake hands with politicians." Ji-won lowered her hand slowly. "I understand you don't like what humanity has become, but I need you to understand something. The galaxy fears us. They remember what we were. If they learn we built weapons like you, they'll destroy us before we can explain." "Good," Dae-sung said. "Let them be afraid. Maybe then they'll actually prepare for what's coming." Ji-won's face turned red. "You don't understand. We've spent 200 years building trust. Building peace. One mistake and peace?" Dae-sung turned to face her. "Your colonies are dying. Your people are screaming for help. And you're worried about what aliens think of you?" His voice got louder. "Where I come from, we called that cowardice." Ji-won stared at him with cold eyes. Where you come from, we nearly destroyed ourselves. We fought wars that killed billions. We made weapons like you and pointed them at our own people. She stepped closer. I'm not a coward. I'm trying to make sure we survive without becoming monsters again. Before Dae-sung could respond, the door opened again. Commander Ha-yoon entered with a tall man in military armor. This is Captain Bonhwa, Ha-yoon said. He'll be working with you. Bonhwa saluted. It's an honor, sir. My grandfather served in your time. He told me stories about the Guardian program. Dae-sung looked at him carefully. What was his name? Sergeant Bonjin. He was stationed at Mars Colony 7, Dae-sung finished. He was a good soldier. Bonhwa nodded slowly. He said the same about you. For the first time since waking, Dae-sung almost smiled. Ha-yoon cleared her throat. We need to train. Our Marines need to understand how to work with you. The training went badly. Dae-sung moved too fast. He hit too hard. Within 5 minutes, 3 Marines were injured. One had a broken arm. Another couldn't breathe properly. Dae-sung stood in the training room surrounded by hurt soldiers. He hadn't meant to injure them. He had held back as much as he could. But the gap between him and normal humans was too big. This won't work, Ha-yoon said quietly. You can't fight alongside regular forces. I know, Dae-sung said. He sounded tired. I'm not a soldier anymore. I'm a weapon. Just point me at the enemy and stay out of my way. That night, Dae-sung couldn't sleep. He walked through the empty corridors of the station until he reached an observation deck. Earth filled the view, peaceful and beautiful. Someone was already there. Bonhwa stood by the window looking at the planet. My grandfather gave me something before he died, Bonhwa said without turning. He pulled out a small data chip. Recordings from your time, things they didn't put in the history books. Dae-sung took the chip. Why are you giving this to me? Because you need to see what we were, and what we became. Bonhwa finally looked at him. You think we're weak. Maybe you're right. But we learned from our mistakes. We chose to be different. Dae-sung spent hours watching the recordings, battles, wars, colonies burning, human ships destroying other human ships. He saw things he had forgotten, things he had tried not to remember, and then he saw the aftermath. The peace treaties, the rebuilding, humans and aliens working together. It wasn't weakness. It was wisdom bought with blood. The alarm woke everyone 3 hours before dawn. Dae-sung ran to the command center where Ha-yoon was already giving orders. What happened? He asked. Ships, Ha-yoon said. Old ships. Ancient designs. They just appeared at the edge of the solar system. On the screen, Dae-sung saw them. Ghost ships from his era, barely functional, held together by will and old technology. They're broadcasting, a technician said. It's using Guardian codes, a voice filled the room. Female, old, tired. Hello, Dae-sung. It's been a long time. Dae-sung felt cold. That voice. He knew that voice, Hyorin? He whispered. What's left of her, the voice said. I've been waiting for you to wake up. We have much to discuss. Who is Hyorin? Ha-yoon asked. She was my partner, Dae-sung said quietly. She died on the first mission. Or I thought she did. I didn't die, Hyorin's voice said. I transcended. They uploaded my consciousness before my body failed. I've been watching, waiting. The Void Sovereign is coming and I know where it's going. Taemin was typing frantically. This is impossible. The technology to upload human consciousness didn't exist. It did, Dae-sung interrupted. It was classified. Only Guardians knew about it. He looked at the screen. Where is it going, Hyorin? It's searching for the weapon. The one you refused to use. The null field generator. Your commanders hid it after you failed. The Void Sovereign knows it exists. If it finds that weapon, it will use it to destroy everything. The room went silent. Ha-yoon looked at Dae-sung. What weapon? What is she talking about? Dae-sung closed his eyes. This was the truth he had been avoiding. The real reason they put him in stasis. 300 years ago, we had a chance to stop the Void Sovereign, he said slowly. There was a weapon, a device that could create permanent holes in reality. It would trap the Sovereign forever. Then why didn't you use it? Ji-won asked. Because it would kill millions of innocent aliens in the process, Dae-sung said. The weapon didn't care what it destroyed. It would erase entire sectors of space, so I refused the order. I tried to find another way, and they put you in stasis for disobeying, Ha-yoon said. Dae-sung nodded. They called me a traitor, said I chose aliens over humanity. Maybe they were right. Bonhua stepped forward. They were wrong. You chose to be human instead of a monster. That takes more courage than pulling a trigger. Hyorin's voice returned. The weapon is hidden at the galactic core. The Void Sovereign is moving toward it. You have 6 months before it arrives. After that, everything ends. Hyun looked at her crew. Then we go to the core. We destroy the weapon before the Sovereign finds it. It's not that simple, Hyorin said. The core is unstable. Space and time don't work properly there. Only someone with the Aegis system can survive. Only Daesung. Daesung felt the weight of it all pressing down on him. 300 years later, and he was still facing the same impossible choice. I'll do it, he said, but this time I'm not following orders. I'm not anyone's weapon. I'll stop the Sovereign my way. Hyun extended her hand. Partners. Daesung looked at her hand for a long moment. Then he took it. Partners. Outside the station, Hyorin's ghost ships waited in the darkness. Somewhere far away, the Void Sovereign moved through space searching for the weapon that would end the galaxy. The clock was ticking, and humanity's guardian was finally ready to finish what he started 300 years ago. The Galactic Collective Assembly was huge. Daesung had never seen so many different species in one place. The station itself was bigger than most cities, floating in neutral space where no single species could claim control. He stood behind Ambassador Ji-won as she prepared to speak. 200 species waited to hear what humanity had to say. Most of them looked angry or scared. Some looked both. Are you ready? Ji-won asked without looking at him. No, Daesung answered honestly. Good. Neither am I. She stepped forward into the light. The assembly hall went quiet. Ji-won's voice carried through the space, translated instantly into 200 languages. Members of the collective, we face extinction. The entity destroying our colonies cannot be stopped by conventional means. That's why humanity is revealing something we kept hidden for 3 centuries. She gestured and Daesung walked forward. The assembly erupted. Voices shouted in 100 different languages. Some aliens stood up from their seats. Others reached for weapons. Ji-won raised her hand. This is Daesung, a guardian from Earth's early expansion period. He was designed to fight threats that normal militaries cannot handle. He is the only being who has successfully damaged the void entity. A tall alien with 4 arms stood up. His skin was covered in scales that changed color when he was angry. Right now they were burning red. We know what your guardians did, he hissed. We remember the destruction wars. We remember humans burning our worlds. Daesung felt something cold in his stomach. He had fought in those wars. He had done terrible things. Another species representative stood. You created weapons to destroy us, and now you want us to trust you? The chamber filled with noise. Accusations, fear, anger. Ji-won tried to speak, but nobody was listening anymore. Then the screens changed. Every display in the assembly hall showed the same thing. A planet. A beautiful world with blue oceans and green continents. 4 billion people live there. That's Velcara, someone whispered. The darkness appeared at the edge of the screen. It moved like liquid, like smoke, like nothing that should exist. It touched the planet's atmosphere. The broadcast from Velcara started playing. Panicked voices screaming. People watching the stars go out above their cities. Watching the darkness spread across their sky. Then nothing. Just static. The assembly hall was silent now. We need to send help, someone said. The military council leader shook his head. It's too late. By the time any fleet arrives, the planet will be gone. Daesung was already moving. He walked toward the exit. Where are you going? Ji-won called. To save them, he said simply. You don't have authorization, the military council leader said. We haven't approved. Daesung stopped and turned. 4 billion people are dying right now. I don't need your permission to help them. If you leave, you'll be breaking collective law. We'll have to treat you as a threat, then treat me as a threat. Daesung walked out. Commander Hyun was waiting outside with a ship. Bonhua and a squad of Marines were already aboard. You're all breaking the law, Daesung said. Hyun smiled. Then we're criminals together. Get in. The journey to Velcara took 6 hours at maximum speed. 6 hours of knowing that millions were dying every minute. 6 hours of Daesung sitting in silence, feeling the Aegis system prepare for battle. When they arrived, the planet was half covered in darkness. Cities vanished as the void touched them. The system's star was dimming, its light being eaten. Bonhua looked at his screens. We're reading 2 billion life signs, down from 4 billion to 2 billion dead in hours. Daesung stood up. His armor was already forming. How long until the planet is completely covered? 3 hours, Hayun said. Then we have 3 hours. He looked at Bonhua. Can your people coordinate evacuations? We're soldiers, not rescue workers. Today you're both. Get as many people off that planet as you can. I'll hold back the darkness, one man against that. Bonhua stared at the darkness covering half a planet. I'm not a man anymore, Daesung said. Remember? The Battle of Velkara became legend. Daesung didn't fight like a soldier. He fought like a force of nature. He dove into the darkness itself. The Aegis system let him create pockets of reality inside the void. Wherever he went, the darkness pulled back. Light returned. People lived, but it hurt. Every second in the void felt like being torn apart. The darkness tried to erase him, to make him nothing. Only the Aegis system kept him real. On the planet's surface, Bonhua and his marines worked miracles. They coordinated with local forces. They found survivors in the areas where Daesung pushed back the darkness. They loaded ships beyond capacity and sent them to safety. 3 hours became 4, then 5. Daesung kept fighting, kept pushing, even as his body started to break down. Commander, we have to pull him out, Taemin said on the ship. His readings are critical. The Aegis system is consuming his biological tissue. If he keeps fighting, it will kill him. Hayun watched the numbers. 600 million evacuated. Still over 1 billion left on the planet. Can we get them all? Not if we pull him out now. Hayun made the hardest decision of her life. We keep going. When the evacuation finally finished, Daesung collapsed. Hayun's ship pulled him from the planet's surface. His armor was cracked. His skin was dissolving into energy. He looked more machine than human. How many? He whispered. Hayun knelt beside him. 600 million. You saved 600 million people and the rest? Gone. She couldn't lie to him. Daesung closed his eyes. Not enough. Never enough. But it was more than anyone else could have saved. The galaxy watched the battle through long-range sensors. They saw one human guardian fight a planetary-scale threat and win. The Galactic Collective Assembly met again 3 days later. This time, nobody called Daesung a weapon. Nobody talked about the destruction wars. Instead, species after species stood up to offer support. Resources, ships, technology. They would help humanity fight the Void Sovereign. But not everyone was convinced. The Ascendant Hierarchy, the most powerful military force in the galaxy, remained silent. Their representative simply watched with cold eyes. After the meeting, Daesung stood on an observation deck. His body was healing, but slower now. Taemin had warned him. 3 more battles like Velkara and the Aegis system would consume him completely. He would cease to exist as a living being. He would become pure energy. Immortal, but empty. A voice spoke from the shadows. A deep voice that made the air vibrate. You fought well, Guardian. Daesung spun around. Nobody was there. But the voice continued, coming from everywhere and nowhere. I remember you. From before. You hurt me then. You hurt me now. But you cannot stop me. I am inevitable. The Void Sovereign, Daesung said. I offer you peace. Surrender. Join the Void. No more pain. No more loss. Just silence forever. Daesung looked out at the stars. He thought about the 600 million people he saved. The billion he couldn't. I choose to fight, he said. Then you choose death. For yourself and everyone you try to protect. The voice faded. I will see you at the core, Guardian. There you will finally understand. The presence vanished. Daesung stood alone again. Hayun found him an hour later. Hyo-Rin sent new coordinates. The null field generator is at the galactic core, just like she said. We leave in 2 days. Daesung nodded slowly. Are you ready? Hayun asked. No, he said. But I'm going anyway. The greatest fleet in galactic history began to assemble. Human ships. Alien vessels. Even some Ascendant Hierarchy cruisers joined, though their leaders still refused to officially support the mission. They would delay the Void Sovereign while Daesung went to the core. It was the galaxy's last hope. A desperate plan that probably wouldn't work, but it was the only plan they had, and Daesung would see it through, even if it killed him, even if it cost him everything, because that's what Guardians did. They protected, they sacrificed, they stood between the darkness and the light, no matter the cost. The galactic core was hell. Daesung had seen many terrible places in his life, but nothing compared to this. Space itself was broken here. Black holes twisted reality. Stars collided and exploded. Gravity pulled in 1,000 different directions at once. Normal ships couldn't survive. Even his small craft was barely holding together. Only the Aegis system kept him alive, creating a bubble of stable reality around his body. Behind him, far away, the coalition fleet was fighting. Commander Ha-Yun had assembled ships from 50 different species. They were buying him time, holding back the Void Sovereign's advance, but they were dying. Taesung could feel it even from here. Every hour, dozens of ships went silent. Hyorin's ghost fleet followed at a safe distance. Her voice crackled through his communications. The facility is ahead, 3,000 kilometers. You're almost there. Taesung checked his readings. The Aegis system was at 70% consumption. His body was more energy than flesh now. Taemin had been right. 2 more major battles and he would cease to exist. Tell me something, he said to Hyorin. Why did you really stay? Why spend 300 years as a ghost? There was a long pause. Because I loved you, she said finally. And because I knew you would need help finishing this. Taesung closed his eyes. I'm sorry. For everything, don't be sorry. Just survive. She went quiet. The facility appeared through the chaos. It was huge, built into an asteroid that somehow survived the core's destruction. Light still glowed inside. Power still ran through its systems. Taesung landed his ship and stepped out into the nightmare. The gravity was wrong. Up and down kept changing. He could see things that shouldn't exist. Places where reality just stopped. The facility doors were open. Waiting. Inside, the halls were empty but not abandoned. Someone had been here recently. Footprints in the dust. Lights that flickered as he passed. Then he heard voices. Human voices. He followed the sound to a large chamber. In the center stood the null field generator. It was beautiful and terrible, a machine that could tear holes in existence itself, and around it stood his old team. Or what they had become. They were still alive after 300 years, but they were no longer human. Their bodies had merged with the facility's technology, metal and flesh combined. They looked at him with eyes that glowed with the same energy that powered the generator. Commander Kyung-soo spoke first. His voice was wrong, like multiple voices speaking at once. You came back. We knew you would. Taesung stared at his old commander. What happened to you? We stayed. We guarded the weapon, and it changed us. Kyung-soo moved closer. The void touched us slowly, showed us the truth. What truth? That this weapon was never meant to seal the Void Sovereign. It was meant to summon it. Kyung-soo's form shifted. Our leaders wanted to control it, to use it as the ultimate weapon against our enemies. Taesung felt sick. That's insane, is it? The old wars were ending. Humanity needed something to stay strong. What better weapon than one that could erase entire species? Kyung-soo gestured at the generator. You refused to activate it. You saved the galaxy from us. But now the Sovereign is free anyway. Our plan failed, so help me destroy it, Taesung said. No. Kyung-soo's eyes blazed brighter. We spent 300 years becoming one with this machine. If it's destroyed, we die, and we will complete our mission. The team attacked. Taesung had trained with these people. He knew how they fought. But they were different now, faster, stronger, connected to the facility itself. The battle tore through the facility. Taesung fought people he once called friends, people he had trusted with his life. Every strike hurt more than the physical damage. He tried not to kill them, tried to disable them, to find some way to save them. But they gave him no choice. One by one, his old teammates fell. Kyung-soo was the last. The old commander stood between Taesung and the generator, his body crackling with energy. You can't win, Kyung-soo said. The Sovereign is already here. It's been influencing this place for centuries. Everything we've done, everything we've become, it planned this. Then I'll break the plan, Taesung said. Their final fight shook the facility. Taesung pushed the Aegis system to its limits. The metal patterns on his skin spread until he was barely recognizable as human. In the end, Taesung won. Kyung-soo fell, his body dissolving into the facility systems. With his last breath, Kyung-soo whispered, I'm sorry. For everything. Finish it. Taesung stood alone in the chamber. Around him, his team's bodies faded away. They had been prisoners here, corrupted by the very weapon they were meant to guard. He turned to the generator. It hummed with power, ready to tear reality apart. From outside, Bonhua's voice came through his communications. Daesung, the Sovereign's main body is breaking through the fleet. Hayun is giving the order to retreat. You need to hurry. How long do I have? Minutes. Maybe less. Daesung looked at the generator. He knew how to destroy it. But the facility was deep in the core's instability. The explosion would create a chain reaction. Black holes would collapse. Stars would be consumed. He would die. There was no way to survive what he was about to do. Dr. Taemin's voice joined the communication. Daesung, wait. There's another option. What option? The Aegis system can save you, but you have to let it consume your body completely. You'll become pure energy. Like the Void Sovereign. You'll be immortal, and no longer human. Daesung finished. Yes, but you'll be alive. You can still fight. Daesung thought about it. He could become a god, powerful enough to fight the Void Sovereign for eternity, but he would lose everything that made him who he was, or he could stay human. Stay mortal, and use every bit of power he had left in one final attack. The choice was simple, really. He was a guardian. Guardians protected. They sacrificed. They did what needed to be done. I'm not becoming a monster to fight a monster, he said quietly. Daesung, please, Hayun's voice broke. Don't do this, I have to. He smiled even though nobody could see. Tell Earth I finished my mission. Finally, he placed his hands on the generator. The Aegis system connected to it, understanding what he wanted to do. Every bit of energy stored in his body over 300 years. Every ounce of power the system had accumulated. All of it released at once, not to activate the weapon, to destroy it and everything around it. The Void Sovereign arrived at the facility just as Daesung released the energy. The entity's massive form filled the space outside, and then there was light. The explosion was visible across 3 galactic arms. 300 years of accumulated dark energy released in a single instant. The null field generator was destroyed. The facility was vaporized. The Void Sovereign's main body was torn apart. When the light faded, nothing remained. Not the facility. Not the generator. Not Daesung. The Guardian was gone. Far away on Hayun's ship, the crew watched in silence. Sensors showed nothing but empty space where the facility had been. Bonhua's face was wet with tears. He saved us. He saved everyone. Hayun stared at the empty space. Her hands were shaking. Get me a full scan of the area. Look for any energy signatures. Any sign of him. They searched for hours. But there was nothing to find. The Guardian had given everything. His life, his future, his very existence, and in doing so, he had saved the galaxy. Part 5. 3 months had passed since the light. Earth looked peaceful from the lunar station. Commander Hayun stood at the same window where Daesung had stood, looking down at the blue planet. So much had changed. So much had stayed the same. The Void Sovereign was scattered. Its main body was destroyed, but pieces remained. Small void entities appeared across the galaxy, mindless and weak. The Coalition fleet hunted them down, one by one. It would take centuries before the Sovereign could reform. Maybe longer. Maybe never. Nobody knew for sure, but the galaxy was safe. For now. The door opened behind her. Captain Bonhua entered, looking tired. He always looked tired these days. The memorial service is in an hour, he said quietly. Hayun nodded. She was wearing her dress uniform, the one she saved for important occasions, for saying goodbye to heroes. How many species are sending representatives? She asked all of them. Even the Ascendant Hierarchy. Bonhua managed a small smile. He brought the galaxy together. Even the ones who hated us. Hayun touched the window. I keep thinking he'll walk through that door. That will find him somehow. Bonhua was quiet for a moment. Dr. Taemin found something. Energy readings from the battle site. They're strange. Strange how? The explosion should have destroyed everything. But there are patterns in the dark energy, fragments that almost look like consciousness. Hayun turned sharply. You think he's alive? No, not alive. But maybe not completely gone either. Bonhua shook his head. Taemin doesn't know what it means. Nobody does. They walked together to the memorial hall. It was filled with people. Humans and aliens standing side by side. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years, united in honoring one human sacrifice. Ambassador Jiwan gave the first speech. She talked about how Daesung had been a weapon who chose to be a hero. how he had shown the galaxy what humanity could be at its best. Representatives from other species spoke. They told stories of the Battle of Velkara, of the 600 million people saved, of the Guardian who fought alone against impossible odds. When it was Hayun's turn, she walked to the podium slowly. She had prepared a speech. Professional, proper. But when she looked at all those faces, the words felt wrong. Instead, she spoke from her heart. I didn't know Daesung long, just a few months, but in that time I watched him struggle with what he was, with what he had been built to be. She paused. He could have become something greater than human, something immortal and powerful, but he chose to stay mortal, to stay human, because that's what mattered to him. Her voice broke slightly. He saved us not because he was the strongest, but because he was good enough, and brave enough, and human enough to make the hard choice. The hall was silent when she finished. Then slowly everyone stood, humans and aliens together, honoring the Guardian who gave everything. After the ceremony, Hayun went to Dr. Taemin's lab. He was surrounded by screens showing energy patterns and data streams. Show me what you found, she said. Taemin pulled up a scan of the battle site. Look here, these aren't random energy fluctuations. They form patterns, almost like neural pathways. Hayun studied the screen. What does it mean? I think when Daesung released all that energy, he didn't completely dissipate. Parts of his consciousness scattered. Fragments exist throughout the galaxy now. In the dark energy itself, is he aware? I don't know, maybe. In some way we don't understand. Taemin looked at her. He's not alive, but he's not entirely gone. He's become part of the galaxy itself. Hayun sat down slowly. So he's still watching over us, perhaps? Taemin smiled sadly, like a guardian should. A week later, Hayun was appointed Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Initiative. Her job was to prepare the galaxy for when the Void Sovereign eventually returned. It might be centuries, it might be millennia, but it would return, and the galaxy would be ready. Captain Bonhua became her second in command. Together, they trained forces from hundreds of species. They developed new tactics based on what they learned fighting alongside Daesung. Ambassador Ji-Wan negotiated humanity's new position in the collective. No longer feared, no longer dismissed, respected as the species that gave up their ultimate weapon to save everyone. Several species asked if humanity would create more guardians. The answer was always no. There would never be another Daesung, not because they couldn't, but because they chose not to. One evening, Hayun visited the Guardian Memorial on Earth. It was in Old Seoul, where statues commemorated the original Guardian program. A new statue stood among them now. Daesung, frozen in metal, looking toward the stars. She placed a plaque at the base. It read, "He was the weapon we built. He became the hero we needed. He gave us the future we deserved." A young cadet approached her. She recognized the uniform of the new defense initiative. "Commander Hayun?" The cadet asked nervously. "I wanted to ask you something, go ahead. Do you think we'll ever need another Guardian? Another weapon like him?" Hayun looked at the statue, at Daesung's metal face, forever young, forever watching. "He wasn't a weapon by the end," she said. "He was a choice, and the fact that he chose to be human even when he could have become something more is why we honor him." She looked at the cadet. "We don't need another Daesung. We need to be worthy of the galaxy he saved." The cadet nodded slowly, understanding. As Hayun walked away from the memorial, her communication device beeped. Dr. Taemin's excited voice came through. "Commander, you need to see this. We just detected an energy spike. The pattern is unmistakable." "What kind of pattern?" "A human neural signature." Just for a moment. It formed a single word. Hayun stopped walking. "What word? Continue." She looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, scattered across the galaxy, fragments of Daesung existed. Watching, waiting, guarding. Maybe he wasn't completely gone after all. Years passed. Decades. The galaxy changed. New alliances formed. Old enemies became friends. The memory of the Void War faded into history, but it was never forgotten. On a frontier world, in a classroom where human and alien children studied together, a teacher told the story of the Guardian. An alien child raised their hand. Was he the strongest warrior ever? The teacher, who was human, smiled. He was strong enough. But more importantly, he was good enough. That's what matters. Another child asked, "Will the darkness ever come back?" The teacher looked out the window at the peaceful stars. "Maybe someday, but if it does, we'll be ready, because the Guardian taught us something important." What did he teach us? That true strength isn't about power. It's about choosing to do what's right, even when it costs everything. He chose to save us. He chose to stay human, and because of that choice, we're all here today. The children looked at the stars with new understanding. Out there, the galaxy continued. Life grew. Civilizations thrived. All because one human chose sacrifice over godhood. And somewhere in the dark energy that flowed through space, patterns formed and dissolved. Neural signatures that spelled out thoughts, memories, emotions. Daesung was gone, but his essence remained. A guardian even in dissolution, watching over the galaxy he died to protect. On Earth, Hayun retired from active duty. She was old now, her hair gray, but she still visited the memorial every year, still placed flowers at the base of the statue. "Thank you," she whispered to the metal face, "for everything." The wind blew through the memorial garden. For just a moment, Hayun felt something, a presence, warm and protective, like someone was standing beside her. Then it passed. But she smiled anyway. The guardian was gone. But his legacy lived on, in every child who learned about sacrifice, in every soldier who chose mercy over cruelty, in every human who remembered that their greatest strength was their humanity. The stars shone above Earth, peaceful and bright. The darkness had been pushed back. And if it ever returned, the galaxy would face it together, because that was Daesung's true gift. Not his power, not his weapons, but the example he set, that a guardian's job isn't to destroy, it's to protect, to sacrifice, to choose light over darkness even when the cost is everything, and humanity would never forget that lesson. The end.